Serious. What was the worst experience you had in elementary school?
I gotta tell you, elementary school was, not a breeze for me. I was picked on a bit. I was the kind of, geeky kid wearing button-up shirts, cried a few times when some girls made fun of me. So I had, some bad experiences, but, nothing compared to these people. Story 1. My mother had sent me to school very sick one day, and I was having a horrible time, to say the least. Nauseous, fever, cough, but I couldn't stay home as she had a very important job interview, so I pretended I was a lot better than I was for her. About a half hour into school, I got this feeling in the pit of my stomach. Oh, God. I proceeded to walk over to where everyone kept their backpacks, where nobody could see me, found the nearest one, and puked inside of it. I was a stupid kid, so I looked around to make sure no one saw. The storage area was around the corner from the class desks, and they were having playmat time, so nobody noticed me. And I put the poor kid's backpack back on its hook. 2 hours later during lunch, I heard a scream, followed by a couple students getting sick all over the lunchroom tables and floor, and that boy whose bag I puked in was crying his freaking eyes out. The teacher basically interrogated the class, and I finally burst into tears and admitted it was me. I was sent to the nurse, then detained, and my mother never looked so angry with me when she picked me up. As for the kid, he didn't talk to me for 2 weeks. Then he told me he hated me and that my pukes smelled like his cat's litter box. We started dating 8 years later, and we are still together. Well, that ending went from, dang, that sucks, to, oh, yay, good for you. I mean, I'm sure that's not the day that you met him. However, as far as, us as the audience, the story of your relationship, that is the least cute meet cute that I've ever heard of, possibly, and I absolutely adore it. Story 2. There's one story that will always stick in my mind. I was in 3rd grade and we were supposed to bring back signed permission slips for our trip to the library. The only person in class who didn't bring his permission slip was a friend of mine. My 3rd grade teacher thought it to be appropriate to interrogate him in front of the entire class as to why he did not bring it back. He responded that he would be unable to attend, and she continued to press him. All of a sudden, he burst into tears and explains that he has to attend a funeral. You'd think that she'd have the brains to stop there, right? Wrong. She still has the nerve to ask, whose? And I'll never forget the look on his face when he replied, my mom's. Friggin' hated that teacher so much for many other reasons. He moved about a week after that, and his father got in contact with our family, updating on their status, which wasn't exactly great. That was my worst experience. I can't imagine how hard it must have been for him. What is wrong with that teacher? Why do elementary school teachers feel the need to, call kids out and embarrass them in front of the class and almost never back down? Certainly not all of them. Not even close to the majority, just a small number. But I think we've all had that elementary teacher who was just a prick. And it's like, why are you working with kids? Content warning for this story, folks. This one gets pretty dark. It involves, some children getting murdered. And so if you don't want to hear about that, I would recommend you go to the timestamp that the editor's putting right here, scroll to that, and skip this one.
Story 3. I grew up in Guyana, South America as a young child due to my father's job. I lived there twice, once in the Amazon rainforest with a small tribe and once in the capital, Georgetown. When I was in 2nd grade, I was at the American school, which had a large fence all around it and a gated entrance. Once, 2 very poor, starving Guyanese children called out to myself and a couple of friends while we were playing at recess asking for food. We gave them some of our extra lunch from our lunch boxes, and they thanked us profusely. Then, as they turned around and walked away, an older Guyanese man shot them both in the head and stole the food before fleeing as everyone started to panic. Story 4. Okay, so my first grade teacher was a total dawnhead who was constantly doing things that probably should have gotten him fired, like telling the entire class that they should never be like me, and using my art project as an example of what everyone shouldn't do, singling me out, openly mocking me and my family in front of the class, forcing me to go to a kindergarten class so he could use me as a bad example there, etc. I'm almost positive he hated me. The worst thing, though, happened one day during our math time. I was in the advanced math class and had already learned what we as a class were doing on a worksheet. Because of this, I worked ahead and finished it before the other kids. This prompted him to take my sheet, scream at me for working ahead of the class / not paying attention, violently rip up my worksheet, throw it in the garbage, and make me start over. It was more humiliating than anything up to that point, and the only time I'd ever been punished for being smart.
You know, I have so much respect for the teaching profession. As some of you may know, I wanted to be a teacher. I went to college for education for a while, never finished it. But I think teachers are highly undervalued and, not given the respect that they deserve a lot of time. But then you hear about crapheads like this, people who should be fired from their job. Because as a teacher, if you are going to treat a child like this, you have failed on the most core level of your job. You truly have. And so you either need to really shape up and, make some course corrections, or you need to quit or get fired.
Story 5. I was bullied pretty mercilessly at the hands of another kid in 7th grade. He would call me a fat F or a R. I was chubby, but actually rather intelligent in hindsight, and kick me or shove me into lockers in front of my peers. Since I was always taught to follow the law and rules, I never responded with violence because I thought that he would get his just desserts from the school admin. When my parents complained to the school administration, rather than doing the sensible thing and punishing the little crap, the principal called us both into the office and tried to pin the blame 50-50 on me and him. And that's when the crocodile tears began to flow, and from that evil brat, as a lot of things he did to me, he began to claim as me being done to him. In the end, he got off scot-free and I got a 30-minute detention. I never trusted school staff after that. Story 6. In 1st grade, my best friend and I were horsing around, and as we were lining up to go outside to get picked up by our parents, he whacked me in the forehead with his lunchbox and it started to bleed. I went to my teacher and told her I fell, and when she saw me bleeding, she freaked out, grabbed me by the hand, and practically dragged me outside, where she hopped around looking for my mom's car. Got some stitches out of it and a bad butt scar that eventually healed over as I aged. In 3rd grade, I got sent to the principal's office 3 times in one day. Was not a good feeling waiting to go home. Story 7. I called my teacher Mom. I then tried to correct myself and referred to her as the names of several other teachers before shutting up and trying to phase into my chair. Once in 4th grade, I told the teacher I had to use the potty instead of the bathroom. Luckily, no one heard me because it was during a speech.
Oh, the awkwardness. It hurts so bad. And yet, you might have called your teacher Mom and then tried to make it look like an accident or whatever. But were you ever leaving the classroom, for the day, and your teacher's bye, we'll see you tomorrow. And you're like, yeah, bye, love you.
Story 8. I was bullied a lot and also had a bad haircut. One day in class, all of us students were sitting in a line while the teacher spoke. Halfway through, the teacher stopped talking. He walked up to me and pulled on my hair, saying, "Is this for real?" He then erupted with laughter, and so did the rest of my class. As they all laughed at me, I felt mortified. I wanted to die. Story 9. I was running around the playground and saw a couple of girls with a small milk carton between them. Ran through and kicked it. Turns out they had a pet hamster or squirrel in it. I killed the pet right in front of them. I felt bad about that for my whole life, and I am now 54. My father did that. I had just gotten a hamster, and it was rolling around in one of those balls while we put the cage together. He came home from work and thought I got a sports ball or something and happily kicked it at me. I got a new hamster. Story 10. In second grade, we sat at desks arranged in groups of 4 with 2 pairs of desks facing each other. I was grasping the front edge of my desk, and this kid slammed his desk against my fingers. Not sure if it was intentional, but it hurt. I started crying, the teacher noticed, and instead of dealing with the situation in a sane way befitting a second grade teacher, her punishment was for the boy to have me slam my desk against his fingers. I told her it was okay because what the F? I really didn't want to do that, but she made me do it anyway. She was a terrible teacher.
Good Lord, real Old Testament eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth kind of teacher. Was that Old Testament? Now I'm thinking it might have been New Testament. I don't know, but that's not how you teach anyone a lesson. That's abuse. I laugh about it because it's just that absurd that that teacher thought that was the way to go about things.
Story 11. Pooped my pants in kindergarten. Then I stepped on it. Then I proceeded to walk around the classroom. When asked if I did it, I denied the act even though the footprints led to me and my pants smelled pretty bad. Got sent home. Many of those kids probably don't remember, but some nights I lay in bed thinking what might have been if I just went to the bathroom.
Well, time to go into the old Mainly Facts office where we've got the little board that says this many days since last poop story. Time to put that number back to 0. Never seems to get to the double digits.
Story 12. I got really sick once. My mother sent me to school despite the fact that I felt awful. I walked into the bathroom, threw up on the floor, and then proceeded to crap my pants. I locked myself in a stall until the teacher came, cleaned me up, and brought me to the nurse. Story 13. Had a teacher tell me I was a slacker when all I wanted to do was mind my own business. She constantly took me out into the hall because I wasn't talking as much as I should and lectured me about how I was disturbing everyone else. Even had my parents come in at one point. Sorry I was a quiet kid, lady. Story 14. I was trapped by a bully after school. His mates sat on me whilst the bully slowly and methodically broke all 8 fingers. This was in 3rd grade. That's like beyond school bully and a little more psychopath. Story 15. There was this one lady at my school who taught special ed who was a typical scary-faced bee. One day, she took us to indoor recess. Our normal teacher couldn't take us for some reason, and I was skipping happily like a normal child would do. She immediately scolds me and says that I can't play in recess. I had to sit in a chair in the corner of the gym while I watched all of my friends play some weird game. After the first round of the game was over, I got up to go play with them because I assumed that my punishment wasn't as severe as sitting out the whole time. Nope, I was yelled at and told to sit back down. For skipping, like the happy child that I was.
I know I'm getting worked up, and I'm just saying that teachers should get fired and all this stuff, and I don't know the whole story, folks. You know what? I'm worked up. It's been a long day. I've read a lot of wild stories today, and but no, I don't like this teacher either. I think this sub. I think they should get fired. Why would you treat a child like that for skipping? Like, I understand needing to be some order, and if the child was like freaking out and running around, you might be like, you know what? No, if you're going to behave like that, no. But at least from the information I have from this story, that this teacher, I guess not a sub, I don't remember. They suck, and don't be like that, people. If you want to teach in elementary school, maybe you should like kids.
Story 16. Speech therapy. The kids in my grade level were really cool and didn't make fun of me for having a speech impediment. I was actually well liked. I only felt different during speech therapy. Nothing feels worse than when your teacher is standing in front of class and the speech therapist has to interrupt the lesson to take you and only you out of class. This happened on a weekly basis, mind you. Story 17. I didn't speak good English when I first moved to the U.S. in 3rd grade. I didn't know that F was a swear word. I used it casually. One time the teacher asked, "Who first settled town I lived in?" I responded, "The effing British." I got suspended for 3 days. Pro tip, before moving to another country, learn which words are offensive and don't say them to your teacher.
You got suspended for 3 days for saying that word? I mean, even YouTube isn't that strict.
Story 18. This butthole kid stabbed me in the shoulder with a metal fork during a snowball fight. Story 19. I peed my pants 2 or 3 times in first grade because the teacher wouldn't let me go to the bathroom. Got bullied by a stereotype bully in 4th and 5th grade. Story 20. I broke my foot and was forced to have someone help me use the restroom even though I could use it by myself no problem. Being a shy boy that used to sit down meat for peeing his whole life, I refused to use the restroom while at school. One day we switched chairs for the day only and I sat on the hot girl seat. I couldn't hold my pee any longer and I let it go. We switched back at the end of the day and she sat on my pee. What is the actual frick? Story 21. I had long hair in kindergarten and first grade, can't quite remember, but a kid used to always tease me about it, saying I looked like a girl. I'm a dude. Anyway, I dragged him into our little cubby space in class and gave him a haircut with safety scissors. The old ones cut hair pretty well. Got in a ton of trouble. By the way, if you lived in Las Vegas 20-some-odd years ago and this was you, my bad. You do not lie about those scissors. When I was really young and coloring in class, I think this was in kindergarten, I was getting annoyed at my hair for falling in my face, so I just grabbed the safety scissors and gave myself bangs. According to my teacher, I did a really good job at it, too.
So you think that I look like a girl because of my long hair? Well, your hair's starting to get a little long. Wouldn't want you to look like a girl. But don't worry, I can help you.
Story 22. A group of boys who were a few years older than me, I was 6, they were 12, would relentlessly chase me around the school every lunchtime. I would hide in the toilets until I was sure they got bored of waiting. I told teachers, but they never did anything. Honestly, I lived in fear of them all year until they left for high school. They were double my age and like 3 times my size. It was horrible. Story 23. When I was in 2nd grade, I had a crush on this one girl, and when we were on a field trip, I saw this ladybug ring for sale. I bought it knowing that she liked ladybugs and waited for the right time to give it to her. I ended up doing it at the end of the field trip as we were gathering our stuff in front of her friends. She laughed in my face and refused the gift. I felt like crap and threw it out. If for nothing else, you can use this story to impress girls you like now because you were a really romantic 2nd grader. Story 24. My 4th grade teacher would always ridicule me in front of the class for not being able to learn my multiplication tables. I'm dyscalculic. I hated 4th grade so much. It was a nightmare.
Elementary school teachers who mock and embarrass their students are crappy at their job. That's not a cool thing to do. This song doesn't have a melody or rhymes. I guess that this is the end. I didn't think this through.
Story 25. I cracked my pants while doing a speech in front of the class. My teacher had not one sympathetic bone in her body and treated me as if I punched her elderly mother in the face.
To be fair, you never did clarify whether or not you actually punched her elderly mother in the face. I mean, that might be important to the story, because if you did, that might be why she was reacting that way. But if you didn't, maybe that teacher needs to chill the F out.
Story 26. I was a bathroom monitor with my friend. He took the boy one, I the girl one, and they were obviously next to each other. We were just talking and messing around, and at one point I jokingly held his shoulders for whatever reason, and this teacher started screaming from down the hall for me to let him go. What am I doing, etc. I also had the meanest 1st grade teacher ever who didn't believe that I wasn't bullying him and kept demanding that I do to her what I did to him to prove it. Still frickin' hate both of those teachers. My kindergarten teacher changed my card from green to yellow because I tugged at another girl's t-shirt to tell her that I thought it was pretty. I'm gonna be honest, I flipped out like SpongeBob did in that one episode when he got a good noodle star taken away. Story 26. Having the Red Rover banned school-wide at recess because some kid broke his arm. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.